Yo, what's up? Welcome to the Throwback Hoops podcast. This is episode 2, and my name is Rob Clayton. Joining me today is my homeboy, Woody V. Woody, how are you, mate?
Good, man. Finally, lockdown's coming to an end, Robbie. I think it's been 3 or 4 months and second last day. So looking forward to be able to go out and maybe throw you some of them nice passes in the corner so you can hit them threes on Thursday night for me, man, and get my assist numbers up.
Good. What's that first thing you're going to be doing when Freedom Day arrives on Monday, Woods?
I want to get to the pub, to be fair, right? My mom probably wouldn't like me saying that, right? But definitely going to get to the pub, bro, for sure.
Good to hear, mate. All right, well, it's great to be back, guys, with episode 2. Look, just wanted to say thanks very much for everyone for the great feedback we received last week. We had a lot of sort of comments and feedback and everything like that, and we're really sort of appreciative of the words that the people sort of spoke there. Obviously, just to let you know, before we continue, where you can find us. So as you remember, we've got our YouTube channel where you just type in Throwback Hoops and subscribe to that YouTube channel. Also, if you are listening via podcast, you can do that via anywhere you can find your podcast. So whether that's iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbay, or any of those places there is where you'll find us. So look, I guess before we sort of continue today, we might sort of get into our jerseys first, Woods. Sure. Let's show the viewers what you're wearing today, mate.
Sure thing, Rob.
Okay, so yeah, Woody's wearing a very retro Hobart Cascade Devils David Radar Close jersey. Now, firstly, Woods, that is an immense jersey, mate. I really like that one. Tell us a little bit about David Close.
Well, first of all, we got the David Close Futura 1994 card here. I mean, the first time I saw David Radar Close was in that 1990-91 season with your Perth Wildcats. Mm-hmm. And he was teammates with James Crawford, Mike Ellis, Pete Hansen, and then last week we spoke about Tiny Pinder and Ricky Grace, right? And that was that final series versus the Eastside Spectres and Brian Gorgian's team, as you'll remember, famous 3-game series. But Close really came to prominence when he moved to the Hobart Tassie Devils. And he was given more of a role on a lesser team without as many stars, and he became a double-digit scorer there. And you get a name like David Radar Close. It's because he was a straight-up marksman.
He was a bit ahead of his time, wasn't he? In terms
well before his time. And I mean, just a little stat for you. In that 94 season, he put up 7.5 3-pointers out of 11 3-point attempts. And that was unheard of in the early 90s.
They weren't exactly from on the 3-point line either, were they? They were probably about a step back.
No, NBA 3-point line. And when we're growing up as kids, a lot of people have heroes in the NBA. But a lot of my heroes were in the NBL, and David Close was one of my heroes. And I used to pretend to shoot like him in the backyard and try and copy his technique because I thought, this guy's just crazy, right? David Close was I was a big fan of David Close growing up. Very little has been heard of him. I mean, recently, I'll call out the Brad and Bodie podcast again. Andrew Vlahov talked about attending the Australian Institute of Sport with David Close in the late 80s, right? He had a great NBA career, which spanned up till 1998, but very little has been heard of him since then. No, I don't know what he's doing or what life was like after he transitioned to, life after basketball. So if anyone knows what David Close is doing right now, please, holler at us, let us know. And by your chance that David Close is listening to this himself, please let us know what you're doing, David.
Reach out to us, Radar. That'd be great. No, I really like that, Woods. That's a great retro jersey there. So, look, I guess for my jerseys this week, you can see I've got a New Zealand Breakers jersey hanging in the background as I'm going to be doing their preview today. So, it's a Corey Webster jersey. So, as you know, Woody, I was a really big fan of Corey Webster when he was playing. So,
you were.
Look, I am a little bit disappointed he's out of the league now. But look, he did have a great sort of career here. In terms of the jersey I'm wearing today, I thought it'd be fitting for that. For the sort of first one that I'm sort of wearing an NBA jersey that I obviously rep someone from the Atlanta Hawks. So I'll just show you what I'm wearing today and I'll just tell you a little bit about him.
Yeah, so beautiful Atlanta Hawks jerseys. For those who are listening to the audio version of the podcast, Robbie has got the Plastic Man, Stacey Augmon. And there you can see his 94,
You like
95
that one, Woods?
Flair card. I love the Plastic Man. I was just recently using the Plastic Man on NBA 2K, so nostalgic, great Atlanta Hawks jersey, man.
Nice, definitely. Look, for those that don't remember Stacey Augmon, it is going back a fair way. He was drafted in the 91 NBA draft by the Atlanta Hawks at pick 9. And he came from UNLV. So some people will remember that running Rebels team that had Greg Anthony and Larry Johnson. So Stacey Augmon was a part of that. Look, he had a pretty good career. He had 5 years with the Hawks in which he averaged double figures, was a great defender. As we mentioned, a high flyer that you'd sort of see on NBA action most weeks. But look, his career did sort of tail off a little bit after that. I was actually sort of a little bit surprised doing a little bit of research there. He actually never averaged over 9 points again after leaving the Hawks, which was strange. I guess since then, the Plastic Man has been doing some coaching. He has had a couple of assistant coaching roles with Milwaukee and Orlando. His last role, he was overseas, but that was sort of pre-COVID. He was assistant coach in Korea, so obviously not sort of sure what's happened after that. But yeah, the Plastic Man, it's definitely a great sort of throwback there. This particular champion jersey that I'm wearing, just for the listeners there, it's the red Atlanta Hawks road uniform. It's probably from about 93, I would have thought, this particular one. But yeah, definitely one of my sort of favorite sort of old school champion collections that I've got in there anyway. So all right. So, look, I guess we'll just sort of move on and just let you know what we're going to cover today. So, look, we are going to keep the format sort of pretty similar to how we did last week. We've got a couple of NBL previews coming up. Woody's going to be handling the Jack Jumpers. I'm going to be handling the Breakers. We'll also then be basically sort of talking about the Aussies in the NBA. We'll also talk about the Atlanta Hawks and sort of a bit of Hawk talk there. So, yeah, I guess we'll sort of get straight onto it, Woods. If you're sort of good to go, we might sort of get onto the Jack Jumpers, obviously the expansion team of the NBL that are joining this year. So, yeah, take it away, Woods. Let us know about these new Jack Jumpers.
Well, first thing to say, it's really good to see the NBA growing and an expansion team coming into the league this year. And look, for all the listeners who can't see the roster, I might just go through the roster really quickly.
Yeah, that's a good idea, Woods.
We got Scott Roth from the Perth Wildcats as the head coach. And in the backcourt, we got the two Josh's imports, Josh Majet and Josh Adams. Sam McDaniel at small forward coming over from Melbourne United. We got Mikhail McIntosh at power forward, the Canadian, and Will Magnay with a new lease on life coming in and starting at that center position. And what Scott Roth has done is fill the team with the whole heap of veterans to come off the bench. We got Agent 97, Jared Weeks. We got Clint Steindl from Perth, Jack McVeigh, who's going to be a fan favorite, and Jared Bairstow as well.
I was about to say, Woody, there's something about this roster that looks a little bit familiar for a Perth Wildcats fan here. Can you tell me what that might be, mate?
Definitely. The Perth Wildcats influence is obviously huge here. Scott Roth coming over, he's brought Jacob Chance as well as his assistant coach with that Perth Wildcats background, and with Clint Steindl and Jared Bairstow. And not like he didn't try to get Nick Kay and a few others over, but was unsuccessful in doing that. But you can definitely see that Perth influence here on that Tasmania Jack Jumpers roster. And one guy they got here as a next star, and I got to get my pronunciation right. I got to say last week that my cousin Mahesh called me up yesterday, and he's like, "Woody, man, Biwali Bayless is not Bayless, it's Bales, like cricket Bales." So right. I know Biwali listened to the podcast. So I'm really sorry, man, for getting your name wrong. So I called my Russian friend Andre. So I said, "Dre, how do I say this name?" So he schooled me on that. So we got Nikita Mihailovsky from Russia as the next star.
I think you've done well there, Woods. What can you tell us about him?
So basically he's a young kid, 18 years old. He's done really well at the junior levels. He started to be a second round pick next year. And we know that, coming into the NBL, it can raise your stock and really set you up for a career in the NBA, like we discussed last week as part of the Next Stars program. He's a shooting guard. He shoots a good clip from three. He's a good playmaker. He's 6'7". He's got a wingspan of 6'11". So, it's nice to see these European guys coming to the league and I think you'll touch on it a little bit later with your New Zealand Breakers preview to come into the league. So I'm really excited to see what he has to offer. Let's just quickly touch on the imports. I mean, Josh Majet, I mean, being Hawks fans, he's no stranger to us. I
No,
mean,
of course.
we've seen him play, and terrific floor general, and getting this opportunity to come and play on this expansion team is going to be good, because having a point guard who can run the offense, who's experienced, is going to be good.
It's going to be his team, isn't it? I think with Majet, so it's going to be interesting to see. Obviously with all that sort of pressure and responsibility, how he goes. But yeah, I'm looking forward to see him. Absolutely right.
Yeah, absolutely. And a guy like Josh Adams, he's going to be a crowd favorite, and one of the most exciting plays in the league straight away. You see, like a guy like him, we call him a professional scorer. He can get it done in a variety of different ways. He's a pogo stick. Just check out Josh Adams clips on YouTube. So I know you've been doing that, right?
I have, yeah. And I understand you're probably excited by McDaniel playing in a Tasmanian uniform.
Yeah. And I mean, his dad was wearing this very jersey with the McDaniel on the back of it, right? So it's kind of nostalgic to see Wayne McDaniel's son also going to be playing for the new Tasmanian team, right? It's kind of
makes you feel old, I reckon, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, 25 years later, his son's coming and playing for the Jack Jumpers. It's just got a nice feel about it. I think Sam McDaniel, he really started to grow as a player last year in that Melbourne United system. But that's the equal opportunity offense. The minutes are spread out. I think what he's going to get this year is an opportunity to play a little bit more. He's going to be able to start straight away. And Scott Roth was saying on his interview with Liam Santamaria the other day that McDaniel has a chance to take his game to the next level and potentially become a boomer going forward. So I'm really excited to see what Sammy Mack has to offer. He's got a lot of love from guys like Jock Landale, who said he could be starting on any team in the NBL. So
he's respected, isn't he? Yeah. Look, there's two other guys I wanted to sort of just touch on with you as well, Woods. There's sort of one that I'm a big fan of in Jared McVeigh. I just really like sort of the way he plays. The other one is Will Magnay. Look, obviously, as we mentioned, I am a Wildcats fan, so we did see him a little bit last year. I don't think the system was quite, set up and designed to sort of, show Will's true strengths there. But how are you feeling about both of those two guys?
Yeah, so I mean, let's touch on Magnay right away. Like he came in with a slightly bigger frame, and I don't know if Perth was the right fit for him. Scott Roth has said that he's lost a bit of weight. He's trying to get him fit in time for the regular season. He's about 6 to 8 weeks away from playing. So hopefully now with the season possibly pushed out a little bit, Will Magnay will be able to start on game one. And Will Magnay asked Scott Roth, listen, get me a good guard. Get me someone who can run the offense and I can play alongside. And straight away, Scott Roth went and got Josh Majette. So I think those two are going to really play off each other really well. You're going to see them lob passes from Josh Majette, and Magnay is going to potentially, earn a case to go back to the NBA. I think that last year at Perth wasn't the best for him. So having this fresh start, having a guard that he can play with is going to be really good for him. In terms of Jack McVeigh, what a nice guy.
I was going to say apologies. I think Jared McVeigh might be a footballer, but apologies, it's Jack McVeigh. But go on there.
Jack McVeigh is just a nice guy. He's just he's an effervescent personality, and the Tasmanian public are going to love him. Kind of like David Stiff looking back 25 years ago. Jack McVeigh is going to play that role in the community. He had his most improved player speech ready to go. And I think
put the ball in the bucket, can't he? Really can.
Definitely. And I think playing under Connor Henry wasn't great for him. He had a lot of guys playing the 4 and 3 spot there, and he didn't get the minutes he would have liked last year. So I think this year, maybe not the most improved player. He could probably be the 6th man of the year. I don't know. Scott Roth has said that I want him to sort of work on the same sort of framework that a guy like Jesse Wagstaff has done for Perth, a power forward. He wants him to play the 4 spot. He's going to be able to get you buckets in a hurry. He can get it done in a variety of different ways in the post. He can shoot the 3. So, I think that the 6th Man of the Year award is something that Jack McVeigh could look at this year as opposed to the most improved player. I want to quickly touch on Mikhail McIntosh, right? I think he's going to be one of the most underrated imports in the NBL this year. He's from Canada. And you got to look back to like Dave Thomas for another Canadian import to come to this league. Rob, I don't think I can think of any other Canadian imports apart from those two. Can you?
I can't. No, I mean, geez, Dave Thomas was great to watch back in the day. But when we're talking, what was that, sort of early noughties now, maybe mid noughties? Yeah. It's been a long time since. So that will be an exciting opportunity for him.
And I've been doing my research on Mikhail McIntosh, and this guy he can get it done in a variety of different ways. Just a solid player. He's great on catch and shoot threes. He can score off the dribble from the mid range. He's got a good low post game. He's an above average athlete and rebounder, and he's getting slept on a little bit. And no one's really spoken about him much. But I think in terms of underrated imports, guys who can make an impact in this league, Mikhail McIntosh is going to be one. I'm a huge fan of Fabian Krislovic. You know that,
I do. Yep.
And him coming in here, he's lacked a bit of confidence and self-belief, and I think Scott Roth is going to give him that. Matt Kenyon's a guy who was a DP with the Brisbane Bullets a few years ago.
Yep.
He's now gone to the G League and really developed his game a little bit, and it's good to see him get this opportunity as well. Probably going to be backing up Josh Adams at that shooting guard spot. So I mean, this roster looks okay for an expansion team. I know we were talking earlier, and you said that they're probably going to be the wooden spooners, but
look, it's a tough one for me. And look, there's some great names on that roster, but when you look at sort of how strong some of these other NBL teams are this season, with all sort of respect to the Jack Jumpers, I think it's going to be quite hard. Something I wanted to sort of touch on as well there, Woods. I know we both listened to Liam Santa Maria's NBL podcast, The Huddle, last week, where he had Scott Roth on there.
We did. Yep.
Thought it was sort of very interesting hearing about how Scott Roth was basically with the Minnesota Timberwolves in their expansion year as a player. And now he's basically in Australia sort of coaching an expansion team for their first season. So I thought that was just quite interesting. I just wanted to obviously sort of touch on that. But so he's obviously sort of been around this sort of situation before and probably knows what it's like with a new team. So I thought that was an interesting one anyway.
Yeah, and with an expansion team, Robbie, it's not just about a new roster. It's a new community. It's a new fan base, and having that experience, being in that position before, Scott Roth is going to be in a good place to also contribute to the community and help with that process. Having had that
it's
experience
great
previously.
that there's going to be hoops back there, isn't there? I mean, they do love their sport in Tasmania, and I think probably a lot of NBL fans were hoping that they would sort of get that franchise back. So I think that's great. How about fantasy there, Woods? How about give us a sleeper and maybe a stud on this Tasmania team that you think might help someone's fantasy team?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, in terms of a stud, I'm going to go with Josh Majet here. He's got an extremely good assist to turnover ratio. He looks after the ball. He's going to give you maybe, sort of 15 and 8 straight away. He can get you some steals. And I just think that this team is his. As you said, he's been given the keys to the offense.
Yep.
And you probably get him at a decent price straight away. So Josh Majet's probably going to be that guy from the point guard position for me that's going to be the stud. Now, in terms of sleeper, I'm going to go with Sam McDaniel, right? He's going to get 25, 30 minutes a game. He's going to get you those defensive stats right away. And he's going to get an opportunity to be a double-digit scorer, and he can probably
fill
up
cheap
the stat
too,
sheets.
couldn't he, in NBL fantasy?
Yeah.
It could be an easy sort of good buy to get at the start of the season, maybe.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, keep an eye out on Fabian Krislovic as well. We've seen a couple of games last year for Cairns where he put up ridiculous numbers. So if he gets an opportunity, maybe. But Sam McDaniel's definitely going to be my sleeper for the season. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I mean, I think that pretty much covers the Jack Jumpers. You done your background work on the Breakers this year?
Yeah, look, it's an interesting one for me, sort of just spending a bit of time this week researching the Breakers. They do have quite a new team. Woody sort of put the slide up there for the people watching there. So, look, it obviously wasn't a great year for for the Breakers last year. But look, there was a lot of circumstances and things against them there. Obviously, with the COVID situation, they were sort of in Tasmania and in sort of other parts of Australia for extended periods there. So, look, I probably would maybe throw that season out a little bit last year. I think they've got a great coach in Dan Shamir. And look, they've had a pretty good core of their team returning back. So if you look in sort of terms of guys that are coming back, you've got Finn Delaney, you've got Tom Abercrombie, the veteran. You've got guys like McDowell White, who basically stepped in last year and was really good. And, plus guys like Rob Lowe are sort of coming back, Rasmus Bark and everything like that. So I think they've got some good players coming back. Probably like a few teams, there's been a big sort of change in their import and sort of international players there. So yeah, basically 3 brand new imports plus a Next Stars player. So I mean, basically we've got some very sort of talented players there. I mean, I guess sort of starting off with them there at point guard, they've got Peyton Seaver. I guess NBA fans would probably be familiar with him. He had a season with Detroit probably about, maybe 8 or 9 years ago. He's been based in Berlin for the last 5 years in the Euro League, and he's a very exciting sort of, leader type point guard. So, look, I think Peyton Siva is going to fit in really well there. He's also half Samoan as well. So, it was a big thing he sort of mentioned that sort of, going back to New Zealand, he could sort of, experience some of that culture that sort of came from his dad's side there. So, yeah, I think a very interesting story in Peyton Siva there. And probably the other one I wanted to touch on as well was the two French guys there. So, we've got two teenagers that are coming here that are basically expected to be, well, pretty much first round picks, right? Woody, are you hearing that with both of these guys? In the NBA next year?
Yeah, definitely. And we were talking about Canadians coming here and playing in an import position, right? And when we talk about European guys coming and taking up an import position, we got to think back to Martin Millsap from Melbourne as the last import that came here and filled up a role for the Tigers.
That's
so
right.
Hugo Besson is not even a part of the Next Stars program. He's playing as a straight up import.
That's right.
From
And
Europe,
Dan Shamir's
nice.
sort of come out and said that, hasn't he? That they sort of were considering Besson for that spot, but obviously, Jiang, his Frenchman sort of has got that spot already. So, yeah, I guess with both of those two, I mean, in terms of Besson, he's very much sort of a two. He's got some sort of great sort of highlight reels there. He's a good scorer. He's a high flyer. I think he's also going to have sort of that 3-and-D capabilities as well that will help his NBA resume. In terms of Usman Deng, he's an exciting player too. I mean, he apparently is still growing. So I think he's 6'9" at the moment and still growing. But yeah, he's a very sort of versatile player. So I think he's actually been sort of spoken about a little bit higher than Besson at this stage. But yeah, very exciting to have two international players here that look are a very good chance of sort of being drafted, as we said, perhaps in the first round of the NBA draft next year. So look, the other sort of new signing I did want to touch on was the big man Jani Wetzel. So as we know, he was with the Phoenix last year. He had just a great debut season, and I think it's a big coup for the Breakers to get him home. He's a local player. That was a big sort of get him. I think he'll have
that experience that he had with Southeast Melbourne, Robbie, sorry to jump in there, would have been really good for him, and to come home on the back of that strong season he had, it's definitely going to be good, right?
I think he's going to get a lot of opportunity here as well. I mean, look, in terms of the depth chart there, pretty much the only other sort of bigs on the roster, there's a DP player, obviously in Timmins there, and then sort of Rob Lowe. And we know sort of Rob Lowe's role. He'll come on, he'll sort of, hit some sort of threes and sort of stretch out the defense. But I think Wetzel's got a lot of opportunities there. It's a tough one for me, I guess, in terms of looking at these depth charts, just working out exactly who may start. Look, obviously, we're a little way away from preseason and everything like that. But look, there's probably a chance that they may start the three imports, and then perhaps it might be the year that Tom Abercrombie, becomes a six man, which I don't think is a bad thing.
So tell me about Jeremiah Martin. I know you've done your research on him, and you're a big fan of his, and he's the most recent signing. So why don't you speak about him a bit?
Yeah, for sure. So look, Jeremiah Martin, he had some very good games with the Brooklyn Nets in the bubble, basically in Orlando. So he's sort of fresh off that stint there. Look, he's a combo guard. He's a left-hander, so he's quite sort of a tricky sort of player. He's very good at getting to the hoop, and he can be, sort of quite a good sort of natural scorer, I guess. So I think he's going to come in and be very handy with them. He may be the one that they decide that they want to be that six man there for that, the spark plug off the bench there. But look, we'll see how we go. But certainly, a lot of pedigree with him. And look, I think Jeremiah Martin, he's still quite young as well. So he's only 25. He'll be really wanting to get back into the big league. He's shown that he can play over there already. So I think if he comes over and has a consistent season, I think he may be one and done, to be honest. But yeah, so look, I've got to say, I love this roster, Woods. I've looked through it. It's got a lot of depth everywhere. I love McDowell White sort of being able to come on and sort of be that big sort of guard there, because I feel like the other guards, that they're quite a smaller sort of backcourt there. So he comes on. They've got good bigs. Probably, look, I haven't mentioned Finn Delaney. He was arguably their best player last season.
Finn Diesel, man.
Yeah,
Finn Diesel.
He is a great player there.
Hey, BMW is one of my favorite players. You know that, right? He's an extremely good game manager. He's going to be able to set the table with all that talent around him. And I think not having those Websters on the team will actually allow McDowell White to thrive a little bit.
Yeah, and probably let's touch on that as well. I mean, a New Zealand Breakers team without a Webster, I mean, it's a strange one. Look, for those that probably haven't heard, I mean, they did sort of part ways with Corey Webster. Believe he's playing in Egypt. I think it might be. He's gone over
Yeah, well,
there.
if he decides to get
If he
vaccinated,
does,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And look, and that was obviously what sort of happened with Ty Webster there. He sort of couldn't commit, given that sort of there may be a lot of games in Australia. He wasn't sort of willing to undergo the vaccine there, and it was sort of mutually agreed to part ways. So again, a little bit disappointing. He's sort of had a very good sort of career overseas, and he's only just recently come to the NBL to sort of play here. And he never saw a shot that he didn't like, but he was exciting to watch there. So, look, a bit of a loss there, but look, in terms of what
Yep.
they've replaced it with these imports, I think this team is going to be very good. I'm certainly picking him to make the top four this season, Woods.
So Robbie, tell me a little bit about the playing situation. I know last year was a very difficult situation for New Zealand, not being able to play many games at home till the very end. What's the word there?
I think they're sort of still waiting to find out as well, to be honest. I mean, look, with the NBL season, nothing is official as yet, and we'll probably touch base on that most weeks. But look, it is looking like it may be a December start. So, look, hopefully as time sort of goes on there, it may actually be better for New Zealand there. It may mean sort of things are sorted out with sort of various, governments and sort of other things like that. So it may be that they can sort of go back to to have the normal schedule that every other team's doing, because I think, like we said last year, to just have a handful of games at home, they were up against it all year. And that's,
Yep.
It did sort of show in that with the standings. But I think they are a bit more equipped this year, even if they do have to play more away games. But yeah, look out for this team this year.
Yeah, nice. And maybe you want to touch on who your fantasy stud and your fantasy sleeper would be on this roster. That'd
Yeah,
be
sure.
great.
So, look, in terms of a stud, if I was sort of starting a fantasy NBL team, I'd be putting Peyton Seaver in there straight away. I can just see him just being that leader and that floor general for the team. He'll shoot good percentages. He'll get a lot of assists. He'll get steals. And look, I think he probably will play quite a lot of minutes on that team as well as the leader. So I think he's probably a no-brainer for the stud there. Look, it's probably a tough one in terms of maybe the sleeper. Maybe we could look at the young Frenchman, Ousmane Dieng there. So he could be that sort of guy that comes on. He's a great defender. He could sort of really come on and sort of create havoc there. We know that NBL fantasy loves the big guys, Woody. So, he could come on, get some offensive rebounds and get some block shots, and he could sort of be worth his weight in gold there. But as I said, love this roster. So you could probably sort of, substitute him for one of another, a number of people on that roster, and you'll still be getting good value.
Yeah, that's a fair call. I think Peyton Shiva could be a outside candidate for MVP as well.
I think you're right. Yeah. All right. Well, no. Look, that's I guess the two previews for this week. So we will sort of continue to bring two team previews each week. So I've sort of been looking forward to do that. Just before we did sort of, go into the next segment there, we did have a couple of, viewer emails and some comments and everything this week, which was great, Woods.
Yeah, definitely.
We did want to just sort of pick one, and we may do that once a week. So look, apologies if we haven't been able to get to you there. But look, in terms of sort of the question this week, we had a great email from a listener by the name of Prabhu. Prabhu sort of basically, it was a two-part question there, sort of asking which player that played in the NBL that then went on to the NBA and made an impact, and then vice versa. So, name someone that sort of played in the NBA and then came over to the NBL and did make a big impact here. So, Woods, I believe you're going to start us off, with the person that sort of made a big impact in the NBL. So, what do you got for us?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of options there, and I apologize to all the others that have made an impact in the NBL after starting their career in the NBA. But I decided to go with Darnell Mee, right? And Darnell Mee was part of that Nuggets team Denver Nuggets team between 1993 and 1995. He was actually part of that Dikembe Mutombo team, that 8th seed, the first ever 8th seed that knocked off a first seed in the Seattle Supersonics, and he played on that team.
Yeah.
And then after he was done with his career in the NBA, he came over to the NBL. My brother and I used to actually play NBA Action on the Sega Mega Drive, and Darnell Mee was in the game alongside Kevin Brooks, who also was on that Denver Nuggets team. So Darnell Mee was actually instrumental in bringing over his good mate Kevin Brooks to the NBL, and Kevin Brooks is still living in Adelaide to this day and contributing towards Australian basketball. But just a little bit about his CV. He's a two-time NBL champion with Adelaide in 1998 and 1999.
Yeah, the back-to-back.
He's a five-time NBL Defensive Player of the Year, two-time All-NBL First Team. In 2007, Darnell Mee actually naturalized and became an Australian. And there was that great 3-game FIBA Oceanic Series versus New Zealand, where Australia won 2-1. And Darnell Mee was representing Australia, and that was when we first saw Paddy Mills before he even went to St. Mary's, right?
It's funny with
Yeah.
Darnell Mee as well there, Wood. So I remember back in the day, basically the ABC used to show like an NCAA game. I think it was like on a Friday night, sort of once a week there. And I remember seeing Darnell Mee play in college, and probably just his name sort of, rang a bell with me. I thought, what a
Me.
strange name, MEE. So I kind of did follow his career. And then, he obviously had the season with Denver. He
Yeah,
obviously had bad luck with a broken leg there. But yeah,
he
it
did.
was it
Yeah.
was a great one to follow when he came over. And he did bounce around a little bit too, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. I'm a huge Cairns Taipans fan, so I love
Mm.
the time that he spent there. And just going back to that series, I mean, for someone like Paddy Mills, a young 19-year-old kid who hadn't even gone to college yet, who's representing his country for the first time, to have a guy like Darnell Mee in the locker room would have been invaluable for him to learn off. Yeah, and I guess we talk about the greatest defenders to ever play the game in this country in the NBL, and I have to call out Darnell Mee as the greatest. I know you'll probably say Damian Martin is the greatest. I mean, the trophy is named after him. But for me, the greatest on-ball defender I've ever seen in the NBL is Darnell Mee. What you got to say about that?
Well, I thought about walking off the podcast, but look, it's probably not a bad call, Woods. He is an amazing defender. I mean, he was just such a long player there. And, look, Martin obviously, was the benchmark. And like you said, the trophy's named after him. But I dare say with Darnell Mee, he could probably guard basically 1 through to 5 on a basketball court, couldn't he? Which is,
Yeah.
I don't think you could say the same for Damo.
And in Marto's early days, I was at all West Sydney Razorbacks games. You know that. And Marto was just a young kid, and Darnell Mee was in the league at that time. And Marto actually speaks about how much he learned from a guy like Darnell Mee and watching him defend. So I think Darnell Mee was a bit of a role model for Damian Martin, and the fact that their careers overlapped a little bit helped Damian Martin learn, become arguably the greatest defender in NBL history.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a good call. I mean, shout out to a guy like Leonard Copeland, Josh Childress, who also contributed in the NBL
Of course.
after having good careers in the NBA. But I decided to go with Darnell Mee.
No,
So what about the reverse side of that question? I
yeah.
know you got a good one for us there.
Oh,
Right?
definitely. I've got a Homer one, which is it's fine. But look, I'm going to talk
Not
about
surprised.
James. No, no surprise. I'm going to talk about James Ennis. I mean, look, I could have kept it, with someone like Joe Ingles or something, but I think probably James Ennis is still someone that not a lot of people probably realise that this season that he had in the NBL. So basically, it's been 7 years ago now. Woods, can you believe that he was here?
Yep.
So yeah, Ennis came over here. He'd just been drafted by our Atlanta Hawks that same season, and then I believe he was traded on to Sacramento, I think possibly. But look, he came over here and he was just a fan favorite from the first game. He was a high flyer. Call up his highlight reels on YouTube. He did some of the probably the biggest sort of dunks I've seen in my years watching the NBL. Look, he basically led the Wildcats that year to a 21-7 record. Another championship, Woods, like one of like 7, 8, whatever it is. We won another one that year. So look, he was third in the MVP voting. He was in the All NBL first team. So that was probably his NBL career. Look, after that, he went to the NBA. He has been somewhat of a journeyman, but
Yep.
he has been over there for the last 7 years. He's played for a few teams now. He's played close to 400 games. So I think you can say that's a pretty successful career already. Look, as of the time we're doing the podcast right now, he actually doesn't have a role to go to. He's 31, certainly a veteran now, but he's been very heavily linked with the Lakers.
Yep.
So as we know, Trevor Ariza, who's 65 years old, is basically injured, and he's probably out for the next couple of months. So they have been talking with Ennis. I think Ennis would be a ready-made replacement for Ariza. He's younger. They're both sort of pretty decent shooters. They're both good defenders. So I'd really love to see Ennis get that opportunity to sort of, I guess, come in there. But we'll obviously see what happens there. I know the Lakers are very loyal to Trevor Ariza, but yeah, James Ennis. Let's hope his career isn't over now. Anyway, so
He'll be in the NBA this year. I
yeah,
guarantee
I
you
think
that.
so too.
And if not,
I believe he
he'll.
scored.
Yeah.
I think he scored like 15 points in his last game last year for Orlando. So anyone that's sort of doing that, the fact that he is old now, getting older now, may be held against him. But look, hopefully he gets another go. So, but look, yeah, definitely a shout out to Prabhu for the questions there. We found that quite interesting, sort of looking into those and sort of answering those for you. So we do appreciate that. Look, I guess we'll go on now, Woody, just to our sort of next segment that we've got,
Yep.
and that's obviously the Australians in the NBA. Do you want to maybe sort of take us away a little bit there and sort of let the audience know who we've chosen to speak about this week?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's only pertinent that we speak about Jock Landale, right? Being a rookie and a guy that just made an impact in the Olympic Games. So Jock Landale's the guy on the San Antonio Spurs. I thought we covered this week, Robbie.
Yeah, absolutely. So, look, I think it's exciting that he's going there. I know we were both thrilled when he sort of got signed. I think it was
Yeah,
during the Olympics, wasn't it? I think it was sort
it
of when
was.
Olympics was
It was.
ongoing.
Yeah.
So, look, I mean, I know we've spoken about it. I think he's got a very good opportunity with the Spurs there. They've had a little bit of a change in the roster this year. They've sort of a few of the veterans have sort of moved on, whether it's
Yep.
the Patty Mills or the DeRozans or sort of guys like that. So, I guess the big thing as well with the Spurs there is, they do have some depth at the big man spot there, but you look at someone like Jakob Pertl there. You going to get any 3-pointers from Jakob Pertl there, Woods?
No, he's offensively challenged to say the
Has he
best.
ever made a
Say the
three-pointer in
least, yeah.
5 years in the NBA? I
No,
think he might have
no.
made one for Toronto, but he hasn't even taken one in 3 seasons for the Spurs. So I think that's where Landale could really sort of solidify his role here. If he could basically stretch the defense and obviously sort of hit those longer sort of shots and sort of keep the defense honest there, I think he could be a big part
Yeah.
there. And as we know, Zach Collins is injured at the moment, right? So that's
Yeah.
someone that he would have been sort of, trying to fight for minutes where the
Yeah.
gets there.
They got a guy like Drew Eubanks there as well, but he doesn't generally shoot threes. I mean, Collins is only a 30% 3-point shooter, and we saw Landale in the NBL last year shooting 40% from three on 3.6 attempts per game. He has the ability to pick and pop from mid range. He offers something that the other big men don't, right? And
Do you
seen
think
him.
he's got that ability, Woods, to sort of stretch that shot out a bit further? How do you think he'll go with that?
Yeah, I think he'll go well, man. I think the NBA 3-point line will be fine for him, right? And he's got a lot of experience playing in Europe at international level. We've seen him; he's the MVP of the finals in the NBL last year.
Yep.
This guy should have been in the NBA a long time ago. I mean, you talk about inferior players in the league.
Yeah.
There's plenty of them, right?
Yep.
So I mean, for him to get this opportunity, and the Spurs have got this like thing for Australian. When you look back to Andrew Gay, Shane Hill, Patty Mills, Aaron Baines, they've got a
Of course.
thing with
What can you
Australians.
tell us about the connection with the Spurs at the moment there, Woods? Because there's certainly a big one, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about the Australians in the Spurs, or
Oh, I was just
what's
talking about their assistant coach.
Oh, right, yeah.
So look, yeah, obviously Matt Nielsen, the assistant
Matt
coach,
Nielsen,
he was
yep.
obviously with the Boomers in Japan as well. So him
Yep.
and Landale will certainly work together, and I think that's going to be a big thing there. I mean, look, there's certainly no doubt that Landale, he may have some G League sort of time. That sort of Spurs do seem to do that with
Yeah,
their first
definitely.
year players, but.
Yeah.
Look, like we said, there's not a lot of competition there. And if he can come in and sort of show the coaches that he can, continue to play hard and obviously sort of have that shot about him there, I think he's sort of got a good season coming up, I think.
Yeah, I almost forgot about the Matt Nielsen connection, man. Thanks for reminding me. So that's going to be great for him as well, having a familiar face there in that locker room that is going to be an ambassador for him as well. And I think like even having a guy like Thaddeus Young in that locker room is not going to be bad, right? Hopefully the Spurs keep Thad Young, but he's a veteran. He's been in the league since 2007. So having a guy like that to bring him along, it's not going to hurt him, is it?
And what about your boy DeJounte Murray as well? I believe he made he had a couple of quotes about Landale recently. What were they that he said?
Well, he did say that he played with Paul Gasol, and he's not by any stretch of the imagination saying Jock Landale is Paul Gasol, but he has those instincts, those passing instincts for a big man. He can pass out of the post. He can really create for the other guys on the team. So he's a very high IQ guy, and DeJounte Murray's really spoken highly of Jock Landale and what he's seen from him so far in preseason, and he's looking forward to playing with him. So I think it really does bode well because DeJounte Murray's the captain of that team basically now. He runs it. As you said, with all those guys going, DeRozan, Patty Mills, DeJounte Murray's 4 or 5 year pro now. He's probably going to be the leader on that team now. He's not not a young kid anymore. So if he can buy into Jock Landale and what he can contribute to the team, that's not going to hurt Jock Landale's prospects. As you said, he's probably going to spend some time in the G League. The Spurs like that, but that won't be bad for him at all. He'll be able to start, show what he can do, and then get that opportunity to come up to the Spurs full squad and probably contribute, closer to the All-Star break in the back end of the season.
Of course. No, I'll certainly be looking forward to see how he goes. So, no, I appreciate that, Wood. So, look, mate, we might go on to probably my favourite segment that we do. We might do a little bit of Hawks talk.
Sure.
So, look, I guess for this week's Hawks talk, we wanted to speak about the 2 rookies that the Hawks have got. So, I know there has been a little bit of talk about that. We got sort of 2 rookies in the draft this year that a lot of people thought were going to go a lot higher than they were taken. So look, Woody's going to be talking about. Actually, I'll start us off. Actually, I'll talk about our first round pick. Yeah. Look, so the first round pick was Jalen Johnson. The Hawks drafted him at pick 20. So he's a 6'9" forward that basically had a cup of coffee with Duke. I think he played around 12 games with Duke. He had an injury and they shut it down after that, which a lot of players were doing. But look, he had some great games there. I think his debut, he had 19 points, 19 rebounds, and 4 blocks. So look, people did speak about him being a potential lottery pick, and it's possible, just obviously not having a full season under his belt. That's the reason why he did slide there. So look, I'm very excited to have him on the Hawks. I think he's going to be very versatile. He has been compared to a Paul Pierce type of player, which look,
Steven Jackson comparisons have come up as well, man.
So, that's true. That's true. And look, he's got the height there. Again, he probably needs to work on that outside shot a little bit there, and that way that could probably, that way you could probably play him at 3 and 4 if you can sort of develop that a little bit more. But look, I think he's going to be a great defender. He's very versatile. Look, I guess probably, and you'll probably say the same when you're talking about Sharif Cooper. We did mention last week the depth that the Hawks team has. They're a very deep team. So, look, they may be brought along slowly. So as much as we are expecting big things, it may not happen straight away. We saw with the Hawks last year, they had a lot of injuries. Fingers crossed we don't have that this year. But look, if we do, we know we've got the depth and sort of people that can cover it there. So, very excited to sort of see Jalen Johnson. We've got a couple of Jukies on our team now, and we'll be 3 if Okafor sticks it as well with Redditch as well. So that's kind of my sort of thoughts on Jalen Johnson there. You're going to give us a little bit of info on the second round pick there, Woods. What can you tell us about Sharif Cooper?
I love Sharif Cooper, man. And the guy fell to 48 in the draft. He didn't shoot a great percentage at Auburn. And I think that was more a situation where he was given a lot of a high usage rate there. So, like Trey, you can't really judge too much about a guy coming out of college and what he puts up. But he was shooting 22% from 3 or something, or 37% from the field. Yep. But he was touted as a first round pick. But, he's at 6 foot, he's a bit undersized. But the thing about Sharif Cooper is, and we saw that with that pass he gave to, let's just talk about that pass he gave to John Collins, your boy, yesterday, man. Tell me about that, man.
It was beautiful, wasn't it? Look, I'm not sure if it was the best pass in the world. He threw it up and John Collins just grabbed the thing and threw it down. That's probably twice that John Collins has done that now on Jared Allen. So that's 2 massive facial dunks that he's put on him. But I think guys like Collins, you've got obviously someone like Trey that's a great passer as well. So to have Sharif Cooper come in will be a good thing. How do you think you'll go in terms of minutes there, Woods? Because obviously, we do have DeLon Wright on the roster now, who I'm a big fan of. Last year when Trey was out, there was a lot of sort of Brandon Goodwin playing there. How do you think Cooper will sort of go in this rotation?
The thing is, he's on a 2-way contract with the G League affiliate, right? And the College Park Skyhawks, I think they are, right, from memory. Yeah. And the thing is, for him to actually have extended time with the Hawks, they're going to have to turn that contract from a 2-way contract into a full-time contract. And we talked about TLC, Jahlil Okafor. It's unlikely that this year he's going to get that much of an opportunity to play unless, there's injuries and whatnot. But the first thing that you can think about with Sharif Cooper is an unbelievable floor general. Mm-hmm. His ability to pass. He can pass off the dribble. Yep. He can do lob passes. He can do cross-court passes. He can thread needles. This kid has just got an unbelievable IQ and feel for the game, right?
And he'll be learning from Trey every day in practice too. So that's a really good sort of mentor to have there. Trey's, this is his 4th season coming in now, so he can certainly teach a lot to Sharif there.
And even a guy like DeLon Wright, who's a 5-year veteran now, who knows the ropes well. Yeah. You look at Sharif Cooper, I think straight away of Ish Smith, right? Mm. And Ish Smith, 11-year NBA veteran. They're about the same height. They're both really quick. Their speed is very comparable. They've both got a great feel for the game. And if Sharif Cooper can model his game on a guy like Ish Smith and survive in this league for 10, 11 years, even do half of what Ish Smith does, he'd be pretty happy with what he achieves. But I'm a huge fan. I can't believe he fell to 48 in the draft. So it's actually a steal for us. And it's probably going to be a project for us. Let's work on him this year. Let him spend some time in the G League, learn from the likes of Trey Young, DeLon Wright, whatever. And hey, by the way, in terms of rookies, man, let's mention the guy from Trinidad and Tobago. 7-foot Johnny Hamilton. He's probably going to be on a 2-way contract as well. Won't make the league. But when we talk about the rookies, we've talked about Jalen and Sharif. But Johnny Hamilton, he grew up playing cricket and only picked up basketball when he was about 16. And I've seen him in preseason so far. And this kid's got got a good feel for the game as well, and he's worth mentioning as well.
No, the future's definitely looking bright for the Hawks. And as we said last week, I mean, when they do sort of, decide on this final roster after this training camp, I think there's going to be some very good players that sort of end up without a role there. And look, probably just one last thing about Sharif Cooper there, Woods, obviously having Nate McMillan as the coach there,
Oh, hell
former
yeah.
NBA point guard. So, I mean, I think he's definitely helped Trey in that short time. And I could see him doing great things with Cooper there. So, yeah, I think you're right with him. I think he's definitely going to be an exciting player going forward, and I'm really looking forward to see him.
Me too, man. Me too.
Excellent. All right. Well, look, that's probably sort of comes to the end of sort of our main things we wanted to speak about there, Wood. So we just sort of look at maybe sort of wrapping it up a little bit now. I guess before we sort of went a little bit further in that, we did have a really big shout out we wanted to make, didn't we? And that's obviously two guys that have really been helping us out with the podcast in terms of sort of the production side and sort of just, guidance and advice and everything. So I just wanted to throw a big shout out there to Lala and to Jeremy. So couldn't have done this without you boys. So really appreciate you what you've sort of helped us with so far, and what you're sort of doing, helping us with going forward as well.
Yeah, Lala might be on the show in a few weeks, right?
That's right. Yeah, he could be that sort of first guest. We're in talks with him at the moment. So, yeah, absolutely. He could sort of be that one we sort of get on there. So, all right. So, just in terms of sort of where you can find us, we'll just sort of go into that first. So, I know we did briefly mention it at the start, but, look, you can watch us via our YouTube channel, Throwback Hoops podcast. In terms of the podcast, you can sort of find the podcast on anywhere you download or subscribe your podcast. So that could be iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Podbay, Google. I know my daughter's been asking the Google Assistant this week to play the Throwback Hoops podcast, and she's been playing it every time she's been asked. So that's been pretty cool. And what also, Woods, I believe the Twitter address. Can you sort of give us a little bit of info on that as well?
Yeah, look, it's on the screen below you guys, right? But we've got a nice following now, so please follow us at Throwbacks Hoops. Now we couldn't get Throwback Hoops because it was already taken, so the plural is there. It's at Throwbacks Hoops. It's on the screen below you. So please follow us. The outpouring of support, hundreds and hundreds of downloads and listens for the first episode is just unbelievable. So I couldn't have even imagined that we'd get such a good following in such a short period of time.
Hey, Woods, we had a great sort of great feedback with the jerseys as well, didn't we? So we thought we sort of would post the jerseys that we're sort of rocking each week on the Twitter. So
yes,
look for those to sort of be putting up there. And look, we'll continue to do those. As we said, we've got a combined, over 1,000 jerseys, so we're not going to be running out anytime first.
Right? Hey, and we got that viewer question from Prabhu and a few other inquiries via email. Where can the audience email us if they got anything to say?
So the email address, it's throwbackhoopspodcast@gmail.com. So if you've got any questions you'd like us to sort of speak about on the show, if you want to sort of clarify anything, I should point out as well, I did have a couple of people sort of ask last week, because I think I might have had a slip of the tongue and mentioned that I sort of had lived my adult life in Perth. No, it's not correct. I moved over to Sydney as basically a 10-year-old there, and I've lived in Sydney since. So look, I just wanted to clarify that. We did have a couple of people ask about that. But look, if anyone's got any sort of questions or just advice, or wanted to sort of just drop us a line, feel free to email us there, or obviously sort of contact us on any of the other mediums there as well. Yeah. And so, Woods, is there anything else you wanted to say before we wrap it up this week, mate?
I mean, for all of you who are not watching this podcast and are listening, this guy Robbie has got the worst mustache ever, man. You looking for an alternative career or something, bro? You need to do something about that on your face, man. That shit on your face looks terrible, man.
Thanks for the feedback, Woods. Yeah, I just sort of realised it wasn't actually November, and Movember hadn't started yet. So look, waiting for this this Freedom Day, Woody. You might see a cleaner face next week, and definitely a haircut next week. So, and just wanted to comment on this man bun that you're rocking today as well. I mean, what is this, a throwback to Danny Fortson or something from the Seattle?
Oh man, I think I look pretty good. I know my mom would disagree with it, and my wife is like, "You ain't going on screen wearing that thing on your head, are you?" But I think I look good, man. You know what I'm saying?
No, right? You're doing all right. It probably is a better look than the moustache, mate. So I'll pay that. So no, well, look, just really wanted to say a really big thank you to everyone sort of joining us this week. Look forward for obviously episode 3 to come next week. We've got some great things in store for us there, and we look forward to do it all again then. Peace out.
Much love. Peace, homies.